realise my lips are stained by wine and blueberries, which is not a bad position to be in. Hello, Jen. Hello, Em. Hello, Liz. Hello, Dina.
Hello. Hi. How are you doing, darling?
I was just before you got here cleaning the blueberry and wine stains off my lips, so things are okay.
That is an excellent concept.
And the blueberries weren't like virtuous blueberries; they were blueberries from the middle of a blueberry cheesecake. So.
I love the idea of the virtuous blueberries versus unvirtuous.
Yeah, no, these were very sinful blueberries, like unacceptable
Excellent.
Blueberries, really.
We have a Tris. Hi, Tris.
Hello.
Hi, sweetie. How are you doing?
Good, good. Yes, I've been having literally the worst blueberries and wine, and
Oh no,
staining my lips with sin.
that's very sad. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I know, it's been awful.
I'm sorry you've had such a disappointing blueberry experience.
The worst. How are you?
I'm good. I'm all right. I'm quite tired. Like my eyes are a little bit. If I stop halfway through and start rubbing my eyes, my contacts are a little bit dry. But so you know, you and me with our first world problems, Tris.
Yeah.
Dry contacts, bad blueberries.
They were only bad because they were embedded in a cheesecake.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Hold on. Before we
He's talking sinful bad, not, you know, morally bad.
Oh, I thought you
meant sins, which is not real sin.
Like
some lightweight sin.
Because like disappointing blueberries are the pits. You know, when you have like put a blueberry into your mouth and it's this floury, watery, tasteless sack of shit.
No, these were juicy and surrounded by cheesecake.
Well, I hereby withdraw all sympathy. I can't believe you tricked me like this.
Yeah, well, I can. I'm smart, you know. And you're trusting.
I will mute you. I will mute you. Hello, everybody who isn't Tristan. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Jen and Nev. Jen and Nev. Thank you so much for my beautiful present, my book and my card. I teared up. I teared up a bit, unsurprisingly. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to read it.
Can I just draw attention to Neville's t-shirt? Because it's one of their favourites. Like the ones they own, that's one of my favourites.
That's so cute.
Can someone who's got a better device read out the words for me, please?
It says, "Don't forget to love each other." Jen and Nev, you are muted, my darlings. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, we've been telling you how much we love you.
I know as of today I have two Pride D&D shirts. As someone apparently thought this might be my jam.
The rise in the pumpkin.
I mean, it is your jam, though.
Yeah.
That is incredibly
They're
cool.
not wrong.
That is incredibly
really good.
Who else have we got?
Also, Bina, your sweater is lovely.
Bina, you
It
got
has 3D
foxes
fox
on
tails.
The 3D.
Yeah, the tails are like floofy.
It's so cute.
You're so foxy.
The foxiest. Oh, that's gorgeous. I really like that collar, that like double ring collar. Very cool. Hi, Liz. Hi, Liz. How you doing, sweet pea?
Ooh, hi. I'm okay. I've had a bit of a up and down sort of day.
Peanut.
Yeah, just some sad news in the morning, but I've done lots of DIY, so I feel like I've had a nap and sleeping.
That sounds like an excellent way of dealing with difficult things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I'm incompetent at tech, but no, I'm okay. I got a lovely card from Jen and Neville today, which cheered me up. So
great, glad to know all our posts is getting out.
Yeah, it is. It was very, very cheering and sweet to read. So thank you, and I love you both.
Love you too.
Hey Liz, you might understand the appeal of this. Look what I got today.
Ooh, Ooh, yes, exciting.
What is it? What is it, please? Also, hello.
It is the third book in a series which me and Liz enjoyed the first book of as teenagers.
Yes.
Ooh. Is it fruity? It looks.
It is historical romance with
It's got-
occasional sauciness.
It's got a picture of a bosom on it, Katie. We all know what kind of book it is.
Katie, is it? I'm order that for myself because I need some nice but historically good.
It's not
kind of
it's-
reading.
It's not nice. Remember how everything goes wrong and everyone makes bad choices?
Oh yeah. I think I've just like shaded it with teenageness. So therefore nostalgia of the warmth of enjoying it as a teen.
Liz, my darling, if you need nice, are you a fan of Georgette Heyer?
Don't know Georgette Heyer.
Okay, I'm gonna order you a book. I'm gonna order you a book. In fact, what time is it? How much time have we got to story time?
3 minutes.
7 minutes past 9.
3 minutes. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna go and order you a book now.
Oh, thank you.
2 minutes.
And yay.
I can
That's so
still hear you, so no one say anything mean about me while I'm off screen.
Oh, well, cool. I'm done here, guys.
That ruined our plans.
Yep.
That fucking Frankie, all she does is read us lovely stories and be really nice to us. Ugh.
Yeah.
She's the worst.
Yeah. Awful.
Isn't it annoying how great she is?
She doesn't even have the grace to turn up looking not gorgeous once in a while.
Oh my god, I
Right.
know, right? And the worst part is you want to not like her for it, but she's just so goddamn lovely, it's impossible. Like,
know,
there's
it's
no
so
way you
much
can not
work.
like her.
It's so envy-inducing.
This is why I've been like looking forward to this group all day. I was like, I need some story time today. It's this wholesome goodness.
Right. Liz of love and beauty. Liz, my darling, I don't think I have your. I'm aware that this is being recorded, and so you possibly don't want to say your address in it. Could you drop your address into the chat, and I will briefly pop back and grab it.
Yes.
Just write List of Love and Beauty. It will probably get to her.
That here, the Royal Mail know me well. That is my general moniker for the benevolent public who wish to.
How many lists of love and beauty can there possibly be?
Yeah. You know,
Only one
if you put
important
the, it will definitely get there.
The
so.
yeah. The
Although I
top.
believe you still have to write Bristol on it.
Yes.
on it.
Yes, Bristol.
Bristol.
Have you considered that move to Bristol yet, everybody?
Yeah, I mean, thing that we've been talking about for years and years and years. But I'm plugging for the different city by the south now, but with less luck.
You know, we've got critical mass in Glasgow. Like, it just
That sounds dangerous.
everyone else came here.
That
I
sounds
did come to
super
Glasgow.
dangerous.
It's the rain. I got beaten away by the rain and the cold. So I'm sorry, but I tried. I tried my very best.
But you know, a much better chance of rejoining the EU.
Oh, now, hold on. Don't make me mute the politics chat.
I just
Hi, Michael. Hi, Jonathan. Who else have we got? Hi, other Michael. Kitty and Rory are here. Hello. Oh, that was a really nice. Like, you both did the exact same gesture at the same time, like to the same degree with your arms, and I'm very excited to watch it back on the recording because I'm lame. Don't laugh at me. I'm scrolling to a different screen. Hi, Mike and Pontiff. Secret Mike and Pontiff. Okay. I think it's probably. Is it what time might it be?
Story time.
It's
Oh, Liz, thank you for that. Hold on, I'm gonna very quickly copy that out of the chat.
love you, darling. Right, I'm going to go off video because I'm going to potter and shower and things. But
Okay,
if I fall asleep, but thank you for being my little beacon of light today.
love you, Liz.
Love you all. Night, night.
Okay, everybody. Okay. Now, a little bird, very beautiful little bird with curly hair, has told me that it's story time. So, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Vimes walked back through the damp night. He knew he was too angry to think properly. He'd got nowhere, and he'd travelled a long way to get there. He'd got a cartload of facts, and he'd done all the right logical things, and to someone, somewhere, he must look like a fool. He probably looked like a fool to Carrot already. He'd kept coming up with bright ideas, proper policeman's ideas, and each one had turned out to be a joke. He'd bullied and shouted and done all the proper things, and none of it had worked. They hadn't found a thing. They'd merely increased their amount of ignorance. The ghost of old Mrs. Easy rose up in his inner vision. He couldn't remember much about her. He'd been just another snotty kid in a crowd of snotty kids, and she'd been just another worried face somewhere on top of a pinny. One of Cockbill Street's people. She'd taken in needlework to make ends meet and kept up appearances, and, like everyone else in the street, had crept through life never asking for anything and getting even less. What else could he have done? They practically scraped the down wallpaper off the wall. He stopped. There was the same wallpaper in both rooms. In every room on that floor, that horrible green wallpaper. But no, that couldn't be it. Vetinari had slept in that room for years, if he slept at all. You can't sneak in and redecorate without someone noticing. In front of him, the fog rolled aside. He caught a glimpse of a candlelit room in a nearby building before the cloud flowed back. The fog. Yes. Dampness. Creeping in, brushing against the wallpaper. The old, dusty, musty wallpaper. Would Cheery have tested the wallpaper? After all, in a way you didn't actually see it. It wasn't in the room because it was defining what the room was. Could you actually be poisoned by the walls? He hardly dared think the thought. If he let his mind settle on the suspicion, it'd twist and fly away like all the others. But this was it, said his secret soul. All the messing around with suspects and clues. That was just something to keep the body amused while the back of the brain toiled away. Every real copper knew you didn't go around looking for clues so that you could find out who done it. No, you started out with a pretty good idea of who done it. That way you knew what clues to look for. He wasn't going to have another day of bafflement interspersed with desperately bright ideas, was he? It was bad enough looking at Corporal Littlebottom's expression, which seemed to be getting a little more colourful every time he saw it. He'd said, "Oh, arsenic's a metal, right? So maybe the cutlery has been made of it." He wouldn't forget the look on the dwarf's face as Cheery tried to explain that, yes, it might be possible to do that, provided you were sure that no one would notice the way it dissolved in the soup almost instantly. This time he was going to think first. The Earl of Ankh, Corporal the Right Honourable Lord C.W. St. J. Nobbs. The buzz of conversation stopped. Heads turned. Somewhere in the crowd, someone started to laugh and was hurriedly shushed into silence by their neighbours. Lady Salachi came forward. She was a tall, angular woman with the sharp features and aquiline nose that were the hallmarks of the family. The impression was that an axe was being thrown at you. Then she curtsied. There were gasps of surprise around her, but she glared at the assembled guests and there was a smattering of bows and curtsies. Somewhere at the back of the room, someone started to say, "But the man's an absolute oik," and was cut off. Someone dropped something," said Nobby nervously. "I'll help you look if you like." The footman appeared at his elbow bearing a tray. "A drink, my lord," he said. "Yeah, OK. A pint of Winkles," said Nobby. Jaws fell. But Lady Salaches rose to the occasion. "Winkles," she said. "Type of beer, your ladyship," said the footman. Her ladyship hesitated only a moment. "I believe the butler drinks beer," she said. "See to it, man. And I'll have a pint of Winkles too. What a novel idea." This caused a certain effect among those guests who knew on which side of the biscuit their pâté was spread. "Indeed, capital suggestion. A pint of Winkles here too. Oh, great. Winkles for me. Winkles all round." "But the man's an absolute tit. Shut up." Vimes crossed the brass bridge with care, counting the hippos. There was a ninth shape, but it was leaning against the parapet and muttering to itself in a familiar and, to Vimes at least, an unmenacing way. Faint air movements wafted towards him, a smell that outsmelled even the river. It proclaimed that ahead of Vimes was a dingaling so big it had been upgraded to a clang-a-lang. Bugger it, I told him, stand up and pull you off. And then you ran and shrimp. I told him, says I, in Wood Depot. "Evening, Ron," said Vimes, without even bothering to look at the figure. Foul old Ron fell into step behind him. "Bugger it, they done me out there, so they did." "Yes, Ron," said Vimes. "When shrimp, bugger it, say I bred it to the butter side." "Queen Molly says to watch your back, mister." "What was that?" "So to fry it," said foul old Ron innocently. "Trouser a lot of 'em, they did me out there in their big weasel." The beggar lurched around, and filthy coat dragging its hems along the ground, limped away into the fog. His little dog trotted along in front of him. There was pandemonium in the servants' hall. "Winkles old peculiar," said the butler. "Another 104 pints," said the footman. The butler shrugged. "Harry, Sid, Rob and Geoffrey, 2 trays apiece and double down to the King's Head again, right now." "What else is he doing?" "Well, they're supposed to be having a poetry reading, but he's telling them jokes." "Anecdotes?" "Not exactly." It was amazing how it could both drizzle and fog at the same time. Wind was blowing both through the open window, and Vimes was forced to shut it. He lit the candles by his desk and opened his notebook. Probably he should use the demonic organizer, but he liked to see things written down fair and square. He could think better when he wrote things down. He wrote arsenic and drew a big circle around it. Around the circle he wrote Father Tubelchek's fingernails, and rats, and veterinary, and Mrs. Easy. Lower down the page he wrote golems and drew a second circle. Around that one he wrote Father Tubelchek and Mr. Hopkinson. After some thought he wrote down stolen clay and grog. And then, why would a golem admit to something it didn't do? He stared at the candlelight for a while and then wrote, "Rats eat stuff." More time passed. What has the priest got that anyone wants? From downstairs came the sound of armour as a patrol came in. A corporal shouted. Words, wrote Vimes. What had Mr. Hopkinson got? Dwarf bread? Not stolen. What else had he got? Vimes looked at this too, and then he wrote bakery. stared at the word for a while and rubbed it out and replaced it with oven. He drew a ring around oven and a ring around stolen clay and linked the two. There'd been arsenic under the old priest's fingernails. Perhaps he'd put down rat poison? There were plenty of uses for arsenic. It wasn't as if you couldn't buy it by the pound from any alchemist. He wrote down arsenic monster and looked at it. You found dirt under fingernails. If people had put up a fight, you might find blood or skin. You didn't find grease and arsenic. He looked at the page again and, after still more thought, wrote, golems aren't alive, but they think they are alive. What do things that are alive do? Answer, breathe, eat, crap. He paused, staring out at the fog, and then wrote very carefully, and make more things. Something tingled at the back of his neck. He circled the late Hopkinson's name and drew a line down the page to another circle, in which he wrote, he'd got a big oven. Cheery had said you couldn't bake clay properly in a bread oven. Maybe you could bake it improperly. He looked up at the candlelight again. They couldn't do that, could they? Oh, gods. No, surely not. But after all you needed was clay, and a holy man who knew how to write the words, and someone to actually sculpt the figure, Vimes supposed, but golems had had hundreds and hundreds of years to learn to be good with their hands. Those great big hands, the ones that looked so very fist-like. And then the first thing they'd want to do would be to destroy the evidence, wouldn't it? They probably didn't think of it as killing, but more like a sort of switching off. He drew another rather misshapen circle on his notes. Grog. Old baked clay ground up small. They'd added some of their own clay. Dorf had a new foot, didn't he? It hadn't made it quite right. They'd put part of their own selves into a new golem. That all sounded, well, Nobby would call it mucky. Vimes didn't know what to call it. It sounded like some sort of secret society thing. Clay of my clay, my own flesh and blood. Damn hulking things, aping their betters. Vimes yawned. Sleep. He'd be better for some sleep. Or something. He stared at the page. Automatically, his hand trailed down to the bottom drawer of his desk, as it always did when he was worried and trying to think. It wasn't as though there were ever a bottle there these days, but old habits died hard. There was a soft, glassy ching and a faint, seductive slosh. Vimes's hand came up with a fat bottle. The label said, Bear Huggers Distilleries, the Macabre, finest malt. The liquid inside almost crawled up the sides of the glass in anticipation. He stared at it. He'd reached down into the drawer for the whiskey bottle, and there it was. But it shouldn't have been. He knew Carrot and Fred Colon kept an eye on him, but he'd never bought a bottle since he got married because he'd promised Sybil, hadn't he? But this wasn't any old rotgut. This was the Macabre. He'd tried it once. He couldn't quite remember why now, since in those days the only spirits he generally drank had the subtlety of a mallet to the inner ear. He must have found the money somehow. Just a sniff of it had been like Hogwarts night. Just a sniff. And then she said, "That's funny, it didn't do that last night," said Corporal Nobbs. He beamed at the company. There was silence. Then someone in the crowd started to laugh. One of those little uncertain laughs a man laughs who is unsure that he's not going to be silenced by those around him. Another man laughed. 2 more picked it up. Then laughter exploded in the group as a whole. Nobby basked. "Then there's the one about the Clatchian who walked into a pub with a tiny piano," he began. "I think," said Lady Salachi firmly, "that the buffet is ready." "Got any pig knuckles?" said Nobby cheerfully. "Goes down a treat with Winkles, a plate of pig knuckles." "I don't normally eat extremities," said Lady Salachi. "Pig knuckle sandwich? Never tried a pig knuckle? You just can't beat it," said Nobby. "It is, perhaps, not the most delicate food," said Lady Salachi. "Oh, you can cut the crusts off," said Nobby. "Even the toenails, if you're feeling posh." Sergeant Colon opened his eyes and groaned. His head ached. They'd hit him with something. It might have been a wall. They tied him up too. He was trussed hand and foot. He appeared to be lying in darkness on a wooden floor. There was a greasy smell in the air, which seemed familiar yet annoyingly unrecognisable. As his eyes grew accustomed to the dark, he could make out very faint lines of light, such as might surround a door. He could also hear voices. He tried to get up to his knees and groaned as more pain crackled in his head. When people tied you up, it was bad news. Of course, it was much better news than when they killed you, but it could mean they were just putting you on one side for killing later. This never used to happen, he told himself. In the old days, if you caught someone thieving, you practically held the door open for him to escape. That way, you got home in one piece. By using the angle between a wall and a heavy crate, he managed to get upright. This was not much of an improvement on his former position, but after the thunder in his head had died away, he hopped awkwardly towards the door. There were still voices on the other side of it. Someone apart from Sergeant Colon was in trouble. "Clown, you got me here for this? There's a werewolf in the watch. Not one of your freaks. She's a proper bimorphic. If you tossed a coin, she could smell what side it came down. How about if we kill him and drag his body away? You think she couldn't smell the difference between a corpse and a living body?" Sergeant Colon moaned softly. How about we could march him out in the fog and they can smell fear, idiot. Why couldn't you have let him look around? What could he have seen? I know that copper. Fat old coward with all the brains of a pig. He stinks of fear all the time. Sergeant Colon hoped he wasn't about to stink of anything else. Send Meshuggah after him. Are you sure? It's getting odd. It wanders off and screams in the night, and they're not supposed to do that. And it's cracking up. Trust dumb golems not to do something proper. Everyone knows you can't trust golems. See to it. I heard that Vimes is I've seen to Vimes. Colon eased himself away from the door as quietly as possible. He hadn't the faintest idea what this thing called Meshuggah the golems had made was, except that it sounded like a fine idea to be wherever it wasn't. Now, if he were a resourceful type like Sam Vimes or Captain Carrot, he'd find a nail or something to snap these ropes, wouldn't he? They were really tight and cut into his wrists because the cord was so thin, little more than string, wound and knotted many times. If he could find something to rub it on. But unfortunately, and against all common sense, sometimes people inconsiderately throw their bound enemies into rooms entirely bereft of nails, handy bits of sharp stone, sharp-edged shards of glass, or even, in extreme cases, enough pieces of old junk and tools to make a fully functional armoured car. He managed to get on his knees again and shuffled across the planks. Even a splinter would do. A lump of metal, a wide open doorway marked freedom. He'd settle for anything. What he got was a tiny circle of light on the floor. A knothole in the wood had long ago fallen out, and light, dim orange light, was shining through. Colon got down and applied his eye to the hole. Unfortunately, this also brought his nose into a similar proximity. The stench was appalling. There was a suggestion of wateriness, or at least liquidity. He must be over one of the numerous streams that flowed through the city, although they had of course been built over centuries before and were now used, if their existence was even remembered, for those purposes to which humanity has always put clean fresh water, i.e. making it as turbid and undrinkable as possible. And this one was flowing under the cattle markets. The smell of ammonia bored into Colon's sinuses like a drill. And yet there was light down there. He held his breath and took another look. A couple of feet below him was a very small raft. Half a dozen rats were laid neatly on it, and a minute scrap of candle was burning. A tiny rowing boat entered his vision. A rat was in the bottom of it, and sitting amidships and rowing was wee Mad Arthur. The gnome looked up. Who's out there then? It's me, your good old mate Fred Colon. Can you give me a hand? What are you doing up there? I'm all tied up and they're going to kill me. Why does it smell so bad? It's the old cockbill stream. All the cattle pens drain into it. Wee Mad Arthur grinned. He's going to feel it doing you truth's a power of good, eh? Just call me King of the Golden River, eh? They're going to kill me, Arthur. Don't piss about. Ha, good one. Desperate cells flared in Colon's mind. I've been on the trail of those blokes who are poisoning your rats, he said. The Rat Catchers Guild, snarled Arthur, almost dropping an oar. I knew it was them, right? This is where I got them rats. There's more of them down here, dead as doornails. Right, and I've got to give the names to Commander Vimes in person, with all my arms and legs on. He's very particular about that sort of thing. Did you know you was on a trapdoor? Said Arthur. Wait right there. Arthur rode out of sight. Colon rolled over. After a while, there was a scratching noise in the walls, and then someone kicked him in the ear. Ow! Would there be any money in this? Said wee Mad Arthur, holding up his stub of candle. It was a small one, such as might be put on a child's birthday cake. What about your public duty? Aye, so there's no money in this. Lots, I promise. Now untie me. This is string they've used, said Arthur, somewhere around Colon's hands. Not proper rope at all. Colon felt his hands free, although there was still pressure around his wrists. Where's the trapdoor? He said. You're on it. Handy for dumping stuff. Doesn't look as if it's been used for years from underneath. Hey, I've been finding dead rats everywhere down there now. Fat as your head and twice as dead. I thought the ones I caught for Gimlet were a wee bit sluggish. There was a twang and Colon's legs were free. He sat up cautiously and tried to massage some life back into them. Is there any other way out? He said. Plenty for me. None for a silly beggar like yous, said wee Mad Arthur. You'll have to swim for it. You want me to drop into that? Don't yous worry. You can't drown in it. You sure? Yeah. But you may suffocate. You know that creek they talk about? The one you can be up with no paddle? It's not this one, is it? Said Colon. It's because the cattle pens. said wee Mad Arthur. Cattle penned up is always a bit nervous. I know how they feel. There was a creak outside the door. Colon managed to get to his feet. The door opened. A figure filled the doorway. It was in silhouette because of the light behind it, but Colon looked up into two triangular glowing eyes. Colon's body, which in many respects was considerably more intelligent than the mind it had to carry around, took over. It made use of the adrenaline-fed start the brain had given it and leapt several feet in the air, pointing its toes as it came down so that the iron tips of Colon's boots hit the trapdoor together. The filth of years and the rust of iron gave way. Colon went through. Fortunately, his body had the foresight to hold its own nose as he hit the much-maligned stream, which went gloop. Many people, when they're precipitated into water, struggle to breathe. Sergeant Colon struggled not to. The alternative was too horrible to think about. He rose again, buoyed up in part by various gases released from the ooze. A few feet away, the candle on wee Mad Arthur's rocking raft started to burn with a blue flame. Someone landed on his helmet and kicked it like a man spurs on a horse. Right turn, forward. Half walking, half swimming, Colon struggled down the fetid drain. Terror lent him strength. It would demand repayment with interest later, but for now he left a wake, which took several seconds to close up after him. He didn't stop until a sudden lack of pressure overhead told him he was in the open air. He grabbed in the darkness, found the greasy pilings of a jetty and clung to them, wheezing. What was that thing? Said wee Mad Arthur. Golem, Colon panted. He managed to get a hand onto the planks of the jetty, tried to pull himself up, and sagged back into the water. Hey, did I just hear something? Said wee Mad Arthur. Sergeant Colon rose like an undersea launched missile and landed on the jetty, where he folded up. Nah, just a bird or something, said wee Mad Arthur. What do your friends call you, wee Mad Arthur? Muttered Colon. Dunno. Ain't got none? Gosh, that's surprising. Lord de Nobs had a lot of friends now. Up the hatch! He's looking at your bottom, he said. There were shrieks of laughter. Nobby grinned happily in the middle of the crowd. He couldn't remember when he had enjoyed himself so much with all his clothes on. In the far corner of Lady Salachi's drawing room, a door closed discreetly, and in the comfortable smoking room beyond, anonymous people sat down in leather armchairs and looked at one another expectantly. Finally, one said, It's astonishing, frankly astonishing. The man actually has got charisma. Your meaning? I mean, he's so dreadful. He fascinates people. Like those stories he was telling. Did you notice how people kept encouraging him because they couldn't actually believe anyone would tell jokes like that in mixed company? Actually, I rather liked the one about the very small man playing the piano and his table manners. Did you notice them? No. Exactly. And the smell, don't forget the smell. Not so much bad as odd. Actually, I found that after a few minutes, the nose shuts down, and then my point is that in some strange way, he attracts people. Like a public hanging. There was a period of reflective silence. Good-humoured little tit, though, in his way. Not too bright, though. Give him his pint of beer and a plate of whatever those things with toenails were, and he seems as happy as a pig in muck. I think that's somewhat insulting. I'm sorry. I've known some splendid pigs. Indeed. That I can certainly see him drinking his beer and eating feet while he signs the royal proclamations. Yes, indeed. Do you think he can read? Does it matter? There was some more silence, filled with the busy racing of minds. Then someone said, another thing, we won't have to worry about establishing a royal succession that might be inconvenient. Why do you think that? Can you say any princess marrying him? Well, they have been known to kiss frogs. Frogs, I grant you. And of course, power and royalty are powerful aphrodisiacs. How powerful, would you say? More silence. Then, probably not that powerful. He should do nicely. Splendid. Dragon did well. I suppose the little tit isn't really an earl by any chance. Don't be silly. Cherie Littlebottom sat awkwardly on the high stool behind the desk. All she had to do, she'd been told, was check the patrols off and on duty when the shift changed. A few of the men gave her an odd look, but they said nothing, and she was beginning to relax when the 4 dwarfs on the Kingsway beat came in. They stared at her, and her ears. Their eyes travelled downwards. There was no such concept as a modesty panel in Ankh-Morpork. All that was usually visible under the desk was the bottom half of Sergeant Colon. Of the large number of good reasons for shielding the bottom half of Sergeant Colon from view, its potential for engendering lust was not among the top 10. Them's female clothes, isn't it? Said one of the dwarfs. Cherie swallowed. Why now? She sort of assumed Angua would be around. People always calmed down when she smiled at them. It was really amazing. Well, she quavered. So what? I can if I want to. And on your ear? Well, that's... My mother never even... Oh, that's disgusting. In public too. What happens if kids come in? I could see your ankles, said another dwarf. I'm going to speak to Captain Carrot about this, said the third. I never thought I'd live to see the day. 2 of the dwarfs stormed off towards the locker room. Another one hurried after them, but hesitated as he drew level with the desk. He gave Cherie a frantic look. Nice ankles, though, he said, and then ran. The 4th dwarf waited until the others had gone and then sidled up. Cherie was shaking with nervousness. Don't you say a thing about my legs, she said, waving a finger. The dwarf looked round hurriedly and leaned forward. Is that lipstick? Yes? What about it? The dwarf leaned forward even more, looked around again, this time conspiratorially, and lowered her voice. Could I try it? Angua and Carrot walked silently through the fog, except for Angua's occasional crisp and brief directions. Then she stopped. Up until then, Dorf's scent, or at least the fresh scent of old meat and cow dung, had headed quite directly back to the slaughterhouse district. It's gone up this alley, she said. That's nearly doubling back. And it was moving faster. And there's a lot of humans and sausages. Carrot started to run. A lot of people and the smell of sausages meant a performance of the street theatre that was life in Ankh-Morpork. There was a crowd further up the alley. It had obviously been there for some time, because at the rear was a familiar figure with a tray, craning to see over the tops of the heads. "What's going on, Mr. Dibbler?" said Carrot. "Oh, hello, Captain. They've got a golem." "Who have?" "Oh, some blokes. They've just fetched the hammers." There was a press of bodies in front of Carrot. He put both hands together and rammed them between a couple of people, and then moved them apart. Grunting and struggling, the crowd opened up like a watercourse in front of the better class of prophet. Dorth was standing at bay at the end of the alley. 3 men with hammers were approaching the golem cautiously, in the way of mobs, each unwilling to strike the first blow in case the second blow came right back at him. The golem was crouching back, shielding itself with its slate, on which was written, "I am worth $530. "Money?" said one of the men. "That's all you think about." The slate shattered under a blow. Then he tried to raise this hammer again. When it didn't budge, he very nearly somersaulted backwards. "Money is all you can think about when all you have is a price," said Carrot calmly, twisting the hammer out of his grip. "What do you think you're doing, my friend?" "You can't stop us," mumbled the man. "Everyone knows they're not alive." "But I can arrest you for willful damage to property," said Carrot. "One of these killed that old priest." "Sorry?" said Carrot. "If it's just a thing, how can it commit murder?" "A sword is a thing." He drew his own sword. It made an almost silken sound. "And, of course, you couldn't possibly blame a sword if someone thrust it at you, sir." The man went cross-eyed as he tried to focus on the sword. And again, Angua felt that touch of bewilderment. Carrot wasn't threatening the man. He wasn't threatening the man. He was merely using the sword to demonstrate the point. And that was all. He'd be quite amazed to hear that not everyone would think of it like that. Part of her said, someone has to be very complex indeed to be as simple as Carrot. The man swallowed. "Good point," he said. "Yeah, but you can't trust them," said one of the other hammer bearers. "They sneak around and they never say anything. What are they up to, eh?" He gave Dorf a kick. The golem rocked slightly. "Well now," said Carrot, "that is what I am finding out. In the meantime, I must ask you to go on your business." The third demolition man had only recently arrived in the city and had gone along with the idea because there are some people who do. He raised his hammer defiantly and opened his mouth to say, "Oh yeah," but stopped because just by his ear he heard a growl. It was quite low and soft, but it had a complex little waveform which went straight down into a little knobbly bit in his spinal column, where it pressed an ancient button marked Primal Terror. He turned. An attractive watchwoman behind him gave him a friendly smile. That was to say, her mouth turned up at the corners and all her teeth were visible. He dropped the hammer on his foot. "Well done," said Carrot. "I've always said you can do more with a kind word and a smile." The crowd looked at him with the kind of expression people always wore when they looked at Carrot. It was the face-cracking realization that he really did believe what he was saying. The sheer enormity tended to leave people breathless. They backed away and scurried out of the alley. Carrot turned back to the golem, which had dropped to its knees and was trying to piece its slate together. "Come on, Mr. Dorf," he said. "We'll walk with you the rest of the way." "Are you mad?" said Sock, trying to shut the door. "You think I want that back?" "He's your property," said Carrot. "People were trying to smash him." You should have let them, said the butcher. Haven't you heard the stories? I'm not having one of those under my roof. He tried to slam the door again, but Carrot's foot was in it. Then I'm afraid you're committing an offence, said Carrot. To wit, littering. Oh, be serious. I always am, said Carrot. He always is, said Angua. Sock waved his hands frantically. It could just go away. Shoo! I don't want a killer working in my slaughterhouse. You have it if you're so keen. Carrot grabbed the door and forced it wide open. Sock took a step backwards. Are you trying to bribe an officer of the law, Mr. Sock? Are you insane? I am always sane, said Carrot. He always is, sighed Angua. Watchmen are not allowed to accept gifts, said Carrot. He looked around at Dorf, who was standing forlornly in the street. But I will buy him from you, for a fair price. Sock looked from Carrot to the golem and then back again. Buy? For money? Yes. The butcher shrugged. When people were offering you money, it was no time to debate their sanity. Well, that's different, he conceded. It was worth $530 when I bought it, but of course it's got additional skills now. Angua growled. It had been a trying evening, and the smell of fresh meat was making her senses twang. You were prepared to give it away a moment ago. Well, give, yes, but business is business. I'll pay you $1, said Carrot. $1? That's daylight rob. Angua's hand shot out and grabbed his neck. She could feel the veins, smell his blood and fear. She tried to think of cabbages. It's night time, she growled. Like the man in the alley, Sock listened to the call of the wild. $1, he croaked. Right, a fair price. $1. Carrot produced one and waved his notebook. A receipt is very important, he said. A proper legal transfer of ownership. Right. Happy to oblige. Sock glanced desperately at Angua. Somehow her smile didn't look right. He scribbled a few hasty lines. Carrot looked over his shoulder. I, Gerhardt Sock, give the bearer full and total ownership of the golem dwarf in exchange for $1, and anything it does now is his responsibility and nothing to do with me. Signed, Gerhardt Sock. Interesting wording, but it does look legal, doesn't it? Said Carrot, taking the paper. Thank you very much, Mr. Sock. A happy solution all round, I feel. Is that it? Can I go now? Certainly, and the door slammed shut. Oh, well done, said Angua. So now you own a golem. You do know that anything it does is your responsibility. If that's the truth, why are people smashing them? What are you going to use it for? Carrot looked thoughtfully at Dorf, who was standing at the ground, staring at the ground. Dorf? The golem looked up. Here's your receipt. You don't have to have a master. The golem took the little scrap of paper between two thick fingers. That means you belong to yourself, said Carrot encouragingly. You own yourself. Dorf shrugged. What did you expect? Said Angua. Did you think it was going to wave a flag? I don't think he understands, said Carrot. It's quite hard to get some ideas into people's heads. He stopped abruptly. Carrot took the paper out of Dorf's unresisting fingers. I suppose it might work, he said. It seems a bit invasive, but what they understand after all is the words. He reached up, opened Dorf's lid, and dropped the paper inside. The golem blinked, That is to say, its eyes went dark and then brightened again. It raised one hand very slowly and patted the top of its head. Then it held up the other hand and turned it this way and that, as if it had never seen a hand before. It looked down at its feet and around at the fog-shrouded buildings. It looked at Carrot. It looked up at the clouds above the street. It looked at Carrot again. Then, very slowly, without bending in any way, it fell backwards and hit the cobbles with a thud. The light faded in its eyes. "There," said Angua. "Now it's broken. Can we go?" "There's still a bit of a glow," said Carrot. "It must have all been too much for him. We can't leave him here. Maybe if I took the receipt out." He knelt down by the golem and reached for the trapdoor on its head. Dolph's hand moved so quickly it didn't even appear to move. It was just there, gripping Carrot's wrist. "Ah," said Carrot, gently pulling his arm back. "He's obviously feeling better," said Dolph. The voice of the golem shivered in the fog. Golems had a mouth. They were part of the design. But this one was open, revealing a thin line of red light. "Oh, ye gods," said Angua, backing away. "They can't speak." It was less a syllable than the sound of escaping steam. "I'll find your bit of slate," Carrot began, looking around hurriedly. Dolph clambered to its feet, gently pushed him out of the way, and strode off. "Are you happy now?" said Angua. "I'm not following the wretched thing. Maybe it's going to throw itself in the river." Carrot ran a few steps after the figure, and then stopped and came back. "Why do you hate them so much?" he said. "You wouldn't understand. I really think you wouldn't understand," said Angua. "It's an undead thing. They sort of throw in your face the fact that you're not human." "But you are human." 3 weeks out of 4. Can't you understand that when you have to be careful all the time, it's dreadful to see things like that being accepted? They're not even alive, but they can walk around and they never get people passing remarks about silver or garlic. Up until now, anyway. They're just machines for doing work. That's how they're treated, certainly, said Carrot. You're being reasonable again, snapped Angua. You're deliberately seeing everyone's point of view. Can't you try to be unfair even once? Nobby had been left alone for a moment while the party buzzed around him, so he'd elbowed some waiters away from the buffet and was currently scraping out a bowl with his knife. Ah, Lord de Nobbs, said a voice behind him. He turned. Watcher, he said, licking the knife and wiping it on the tablecloth. Are you busy, my lord? Just making myself this meat paste sandwich, said Nobby. That's pâté de foie gras, my lord. Is that what it's called? Doesn't have the kick of Clammer's beefy might spread, I know that. What, quail's egg? They're a bit small. No, thank you. There's loads of them, said Nobby generously. They're free. You don't have to pay. Even so, I can get 6 in my mouth at once. Watch. Amazing, my lord. We were wondering, however, whether you would care to join a few of us in the smoking room. Indeed. A friendly arm was put around Nobby's shoulders and he was adroitly piloted away from the buffet, but not before he had grabbed a plate of chicken legs. So many people want to talk to you.
It was so much fun.
I love you, Frankie.
I love you too.
Your Nobby is just the best.
Bit overheated. Oh man, I'm enjoying this book so much.
Oh.
So good.
The phrase "I don't want any killers in my slaughterhouse."
So good. So good. Oh Terry, you minx.
Very not.
So, what's happening? Who knows what's happening? What's going on? Da, da, da. What a face.
The voice. Okay, I haven't read this before, but the voice of the person behind the door when what's his name was imprisoned. Colon was imprisoned before he went down a horrible stream, which was awful. Is the same voice as the dragon, I'm pretty sure. Face stroking going on.
Is it?
Is it? Oh. Also, I don't know whether anybody else is getting this, but like the treatment of the golems and the whole like you only think about money thing. Does anyone else? It could be just me, like drawing parallels between that and like blood libel, with like, yeah.
I think that's intentional.
Yeah. Everyone knows that they do X or whatever. Where do they go with their secret little meeting?
I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
The idea of like them being, yeah, like you said, like just there but mysterious and doing their own strange thing. They're not integrated into the community.
It does make it sound much more grim listening through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're reading down a pogrom.
Yep. Yep. Oh, geez.
All the books set in Ankh-Morpork are secretly super grim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of the others aren't as bad, but the Ankh-Morpork ones are all pretty grim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible thing is it's just a thinly veiled reference to reality.
Mm-hmm. Two parts lols to 3 parts Greek, like bleak, gritty realism.
Also,
a wonderful way to learn some subjects like economics.
I literally just realized the pun in the name, in the title of the book.
Feet of clay.
So, like, feet of clay obviously is a reference to the golems themselves, right? But as an expression, it means someone's like weakness, someone's moral failing. And this book is full of people who have like unexamined prejudices
against.
Is that what feet of clay meant? I thought feet of clay was a class thing. That if you have feet of clay, that you are kind of like sort of like salt of the earth.
Like, you know, I'll look it up because
I
think
don't
it's totally wrong. I've heard it used in that context as like
Google agrees with Rory's understanding of it.
But yeah, this book is full of people with like unexamined like prejudices and stuff. Like even Angua and Carrot.
Mm-hmm.
All the dwarves being like, "This is obscene."
Yeah, yeah. This is disgusting. Also, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.
This is gross, and I kind of want to be part of it. Oh.
I read this book like literally 20 years ago, and I'm still getting fucking like puns and shit in it. It's wild.
Yeah. Every time I reread Terry Pratchett, I'm like, there's a pun. I'm pretty sure I didn't know it was first read.
Yep.
I thought Feet of Clay had an implication of like you normally use it to somebody of your elevated class, suggesting that their flaws are from their like peasant roots.
Oh, I see.
So they might have like a body of gold, but they have feet of clay kind of thing. So both of you, I think both of you are right that it does mean they're flaws.
Aw, Chris.
But it was like applied to classism.
I like that. That's very nice. Oh, we should say goodbye to the. I can't hang around too much, so let's say goodbye to the catch-up crew. Catch-up crew, I hope you enjoyed this. Whatever your feet are made of, we love them, and the rest of you. Good night.
Good night, Kirsty Logan.
Good night, Kirsty Logan.